Awesome.
Finally get to talk about one of my favorite topics at the moment. Hi everyone, this is Barbara, and I'm your host of Work in Progress, the podcast. And now I bring to you my first guest of the season 2. Robbie, say hi to the people.
Hello, people. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I only met Barbara like less than 2 weeks ago. We had a conversation like 3 days ago about some pretty cool stuff.
Yep.
And here we are doing a podcast. So
on his birthday.
I'm pretty excited.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here for my birthday.
Yeah, so this is a first for I think both of us. It's your birthday. We're doing a podcast. So many things. So let's get into it. I know that when we talked about this at work, I was going through, and I'm still dealing with a dilemma on a situation that makes no sense to me, but whatever. To each their own healing journey. And I got onto the topic with you about serial monogamy, and I think that was the first time we've ever heard that topic, right? That word, serial monogamy. Is this the first time you hear it?
Well, no. I mean, I've heard of the term, and I'm aware of its existence, and I have met serial monogamers, but it is such a like unspoken subject among friend groups, especially mixed friend groups. I've noticed.
Mixed friend groups. What does that
mean?
Well,
like, I feel like men, if they're serial monogamous, they would not tell a female or whatever gender that they're attracted to that they're serial monogamers, because that would obviously be a pretty good
turn off. Yeah.
And I think we've kind of like come to the understanding that serial monogamy is more of like a sort of a lack in personal sort of intimacy and understanding, and their inability to be one with themselves. So if you're a serial monogamist, unfortunately, I feel like it means that you are lacking something, and you're sort of distracting yourself with significant others to take over, right, the difficulty and hardships that you have to go through alone.
That sounds like a heavy load. But you know what? We're going to define it, because
yes,
I have
our friend Google.
Our friend Google and our friend PsychCentral.com.
Better.
They define it for us. So here is, in simple terms, what is serial monogamy, ladies and gentlemen? It's a person who moves from one romantic relationship to another very quickly, spending as little time single as possible. Do you know somebody in your life like that?
I'm sure we can name
some serial monogamists, might have short-lived relationships, while others might have long-term relationships. Now, there is currently, because I think a lot of people get this term confused. They're like, oh no, I'm not a serial monogamist. Like, I've only been in 2 relationships, and I know we talked about that. Right. But there's currently no official consensus on how many relationships you need to go through before you're considered a serial monogamist.
Potentially could be diagnosing me as one right
I'm
here.
not diagnosing you. This is like, he actually had me give a disclaimer to the people who are watching this that he is not one. It's okay.
Hopefully.
It's okay.
No, we're having fun, and it's an interesting subject, and it's an important one.
It is very important. I think we're going through a phenomenon right now with this whole like world of like modern dating and these dating apps, and like how these options, this plethora of options that people seem to like not come to terms with, because it's like, oh no, but there's more out there, you know what I mean? And like this idea of like the spark, and the idea of like compatibility and chemistry, and just it's a lot. It's a jungle out there in these streets.
I'll probably want to stop dating after this podcast, talking about all the hardships that come with it.
No, but that's the thing. Like, I think people just focus a lot on the negative. It's like, but why is that the focus? Like, why do people look at relationships like it's taking something away from them when it could be really adding something into your life?
That's true.
You know, it's a mindset. It's like changing your mindset. Yes, I don't know. Have you ever had like? Let's actually bring it to the better topic here.
That's a good one.
What's brought you to serial monogamy? Like, what I guess like from our exchange, I think, you know, you had mentioned some experiences in the past that has now put dating for you on a pause.
Well, I guess the personal side of things is, to be blunt, I've been in 2 relationships that were relatively serious, and they happened kind of subsequently from each other. So without the time to sort of process the in-between moment with enough time alone. Obviously, my mindset was pretty comfortable. I was in a good place, so to say, and I was ready, or at least I thought I was.
Back when the first or second?
Both times.
Mm-hmm.
The first one I definitely was ready.
Mm-hmm.
That was clear. The second time I thought I was, because in the moment I felt like I was.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end you realize, like, regardless of how ready you feel, so to say, you need time first and foremost to process anything, even if you're in a so-called good place.
Yeah.
Right, because it takes time for certain other things to sort of become unwoven, and there are elements to your past and yourself that you discover along the way, and so that happened close to the end of my last relationship, and I think at that point I sort of realized, well, I'm not in a place to commit myself to someone when I have a lot more personal objectives and challenges to deal with.
Okay, but let's get to the real deal questions here. How long did you date this person, and when did you come to this realization?
2 years, first one.
You wasted 2 years?
No, I had no.
Okay,
I don't
not a
regret,
waste. Not a waste.
Don't regret anything. I had 2 incredible relationships. I will say this without a doubt. First one was 2 years. Second one was like a year and a half.
Okay.
So to say a year and 8 months. Put that together, that's what, 3 years and 8 months, nearly 4 years. And within those 4 years, I hadn't been single for like more than a month or a bit.
So you kind of jumped.
So I kind of jumped.
Okay.
They were literally subsequent of one or the other. I can't even vividly remember
you being single.
Being single. Because like in that moment, I was like, oh yay, great, you know.
Yeah.
Let's move on with life, and then I find someone that's like, oh great.
Yeah.
And I think by the end of the second one, I even close to the end, I started to get these sort of internal thoughts and realizations, like, oh, this isn't right. Like I'm not in the right place. First of all, I kind of pushed that to my personal objectives, career-wise, growth-wise, personal-wise, and everything. Yeah. But at the same time, there were these like kind of looming feelings of needing to be alone to sort of overcome my perceptions of relationships. And so that is something that you can only do alone. You cannot do it with someone else. If you're in a relationship, that the beauty of it sort of distracts you from those individual thoughts. So, you only have so much time to deal with them.
So, okay. About this topic of being alone and dealing with it alone, I don't know if this is a gender topic or perspective of seeing it. Would you say that guys tend to always want to deal with these things, these struggles alone?
Absolutely.
Because I feel like women don't do that. I feel like they're like, no, let's work it out as a team.
So when I mean by alone, I don't mean sort of like to gear towards the sort of toxic masculine where they don't even tell their male friends. I mean alone as in single. So because I will say I'm very vulnerable with my male friends. I'm thankful to have a group of male friends that I can cry to left and right.
This is so rare.
Is it?
This is so rare.
I'm sorry for those.
This is so rare.
No,
That's
my best guy friends. I mean, like I cry to them whenever I need to, which is good because they have always been. That's why they've been long-term friends, or at least for my life, long-term, just because of how I grew up. And so I've always been able to unload and be supported in that way. But what I mean by alone is like without being in a relationship, you know, to be able to move through that process as an individual and within the collective of my friend group. So yes, of course you wouldn't want to deal with anything alone because that's a one-way ticket to trauma and love.
I mean, but that's a natural response, honestly. Like I could say from my own personal experience, I don't know what it is. I get these men that want to deal with it alone, and they think that, oh, I cannot date you while going to therapy.
What do they mean by that? Like do they elaborate?
No, because obviously this is like a new thought to them. It's like it's like a kid learning how to walk for the first time. Because
that seems like two different things, right? You go to therapy. You can't see someone. Is
the rationale,
like, what is that deal?
I think the rationale is that in their head, it's like if I go to therapy while dating you, I'm not solving the problem within myself because I'm going to be focusing on the relationship and how it's fucking up or whatever, you know?
Yeah. I guess does that rationale come from the fact that they're going to therapy to get over things regarding themselves in the context of a relationship or as individuals?
I think it's both, right? Because if there are things about yourself that you haven't gotten over, it's going to affect you in your personal, your professional relationships. I mean, it's going to affect you in all aspects of your life.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, at one point, I'm like, I just really want to believe that this is like bullshit. But at the same time, it's... You can't argue that? I don't know.
We're weird. Men are weird. Well, kudos to any man who goes to therapy. That's already
Big
One
kudos.
huge fucking step.
Big kudos. Big kudos. I mean, because a lot, and also admitting it, right? Because I think also that, like, that's just a big step to, like, awareness that, okay, I have a problem. Not that, you know, it's a bad thing, but yeah, address those things. No one comes perfect. I actually read somewhere that 50% of people in terms of attachment styles, and I know we got into that at some point in one of our conversations about this topic, 50% of people have, like, healthy attachment styles, and the other 50% have, like, the other toxic attachment styles.
Which are the,
like, it's like
anxiety-based ones, and what are the two of the 50% anxious styles?
Let's look it up.
Let's look it up.
Let's
get the psychology facts in.
So, attachment styles, and I'll read this to you.
There's a secure side, which is the one you want to be part of.
Yes, so these are this is from the Attachment Project. So, what are attachment styles and how do they affect the relationships? Attachment styles, they range from the following. So, according to psychiatrist and psychoanalyst John Bowlby, one's relationship with their parents during childhood has an overarching influence on their social, intimate relationships, and even relationships at work in the future. So, in other words, your early relationship with your caregivers, guardians, whomever, sets the stage, the foundation for how you will build relationships as an adult. So here are the four. It's anxious, or in other words, also referred to as preoccupied. We have avoidant or dismissive. That's another term. Disorganized or fearful avoidant. And the last one, which is like what 50% of people fall into, is secure.
The lucky 50%.
Yeah, the lucky 50%, you know?
Or the ones who work to get there, right?
Yeah, I would want to believe that. I want to believe that people could work to being secure. But it takes, it takes
a lot, but it's possible, no?
Yeah.
You'd hope. Otherwise that 50% are out of luck.
Yeah, I know. But it's like 1 out of 2 people in this world have that. Like, I don't know how often. I have barely come across a person that has a secure attachment style. Everybody's dealing with one of the other 3. Anxious, avoidant, disorganized. It's a mess.
Jeez.
I'm sorry. I'm like, guys, there's books, there's podcasts, there's TED Talks, there's yoga, there's meditation, there's therapy. There's so many resources out there, and most of them are for free. Jesus. Get a therapist.
So it's possible, guys. It's possible. We can all get there.
We can all get there. So, yeah.
No, but I like what you said about, also you mentioned, if you have a problem, go to a therapist, but also we're seeing that, like, you don't need a problem to go to a therapist.
And also when you go to a therapist, it's not like, oh my god, this is a last resort, I'm like going to the loony bin, like, sorry, but like, yeah,
especially men,
but
like,
people have this perception. It's like, you're not crazy
at all.
I mean, it's like you're literally sitting on a couch talking to a person who can give you a perspective that's not your friends, and obviously your friends are always going to be on your side of like, you're dumb dude, like, she's
tired
lame.
of hearing all that.
I mean, well, okay, let's get better. What is the worst advice you ever got?
The worst
from
advice?
A guy.
From a guy?
Yeah.
I can't say anything about advice, but I can talk about like the worst types of reactions you get when you tell them something emotional and vulnerable, and I get reactions like, let me try and think of something, which is just like, they're just like, oh damn, sorry dude, and then like look away, you know, like.
Really?
If they're not that close,
to them.
Okay,
but no, okay.
My close friends, again, thankfully, I've had good friends that are very communicative, very understanding, and I am, like, I was raised in those environments where I'm fortunate that I've had secure friends or secure friend group where we were able to explore avenues of you know, vulnerability.
Yeah, that's so rare.
So I know it's a rare one, and you kind of realize that
because like what you just said is so common.
Yeah, no, crazy. Exactly. So, like, if you're with an acquaintance or you're at a party with guy friends, and like for a moment you're kind of connecting, and then you're like, oh wait, there's some substance there. There's some sort of like friendship spark type thing where you can actually open up, and then you open up for a second, and they're like, oh, sorry, dude, like I don't know what to do, and that's over, and then you're like, all right, great, and I walk away.
That's so shitty.
But that's general, and I must say I don't open up to random people. I open up to my close friends. But you have these experiences that are sort of unique, and you think about that after. And it's like, wow, some people are unable to talk about emotion. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Because I just like, I think the perception for most women is like, oh, men aren't in touch with their emotions.
Most men aren't.
Talk. They just hang and play fucking FIFA.
we do a lot of that as well.
Okay.
But we play FIFA and talk about our emotions while playing FIFA sometimes, which is really fun.
Well, how do you that?
Get yourself a friend you can do that with. You can game with and open up to.
How do you multitask like that? I wouldn't be able to do that. I need to look at the person in the face.
Well, so if
that's also kind of weird. Can you imagine you're like they're playing FIFA and like, hey, yeah, bro, I'm going through something right now and I need your help. And like, yeah, what do you mean? Like, what is that? What is that?
Well, there's two sides too, right? There's the part where you're getting incredibly competitive because we're very competitive in general, and at least with my friends and my upbringing has led to that. But then there's the other side of it where you use it as a sort of medium to communicate. Right, it's just there. It's in the background. It's like if you're, I don't know, putting Friends in the background or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay, like a TV show.
So it's like filler media that adds to the environment where you can be relaxed and talk and open. And if you're close to someone, that happens. And funnily enough, I've had moments where I would game with friends who I'm not that close to, but you just naturally start talking about it. If there's an element of like wanting to talk about things, they come up. Men are not in touch with their emotions, most men, and that comes from like a very toxic masculine society.
Yeah, I mean, because like think about it in like any kind of relationship. I mean, I know you had said that you say that you have a healthy friend group, but like even some of the guys that aren't so close to you as friends, like I'm sure in those dynamics and those sort of relationships there is some sort of toxicity.
Oh yeah. I mean, I say my close friends. When I say that, I mean a very fair few.
Yeah.
My friend groups, which I consider like some of my good friends and brothers in a way, are going through some of the hardest things where they're unable to talk about it unless they're hammered, right? And that's the sad part. Especially when I'm also really close to them and I'll consider them brothers because we spend a lot of time together in, let's say, university or things. And then they start to open up 3-4 years later about things that they've repressed since the first moment you met them.
Jesus,
and then they start bawling to you in hiding.
In hiding?
So I
what does that
had
mean?
really close friends that...
Can you give an example?
Well,
you don't have to give details.
Well, okay.
No names.
So I have one really good friend, like one of my best friends in university, and then for years he'd be going through a lot of personal things and a lot of self-discovery and things that he had to do in hiding and repression, so to say. Like he wasn't able to explore these avenues of himself because he was a man. And he was like my best friend, and then 3-4 years later we're hosting a party, and then he takes me up to the balcony and he just starts like crying, and I'm like, yes, talk to me, finally, talk to me. And he's like, and then he spills everything, right? He spills his entire life story, which I had known pretty much because he was like my best friend, but there are certain things that I'd be hiding because he just couldn't talk about these things and he physically was unable to. Then start bringing that up, and then you realize that it's because of our extended friend group and the sort of upbringing that he had and who he would surround himself with. It was like a muzzle on him. He just couldn't talk about these things.
Wow.
And so that's when you realize like it's not his fault. It's never a man's fault when they can't talk about things. In fact, they're the ones that we should pity the most.
Oh, you think that we should pity men?
We should pity the men who do not talk about their feelings. And it's not because they're trying to be strong and masculine. That's what putting it on the outside.
I think from both sides. I think we're just hurting each other.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we're both hurting each other. I don't want to be of that narrative, that talk of men are trash. Throw them in the dumpster fire. Yeah, but that doesn't help the cause at all.
Doesn't help the cause at all.
Because I intrinsically think that men are good. I think men are really good. But yeah, it's the conditioning. It's what we've been told and we've heard all our lives. I'm sure you've heard the whole like boys don't cry talk.
Boys cry a lot, huh?
Yeah,
boys cry. Just you never see it. You never
see it. That's the sad part.
And most men will either cry alone or not cry because they have forced themselves to never cry.
Yeah. But they cry in private.
Yes, and there's some that, I mean, I don't know if that's true, but there's some men who say like, I haven't cried in years. I haven't cried in like years. Like Jesus. There's people who say that they don't even remember the last time they cried. Outside of maybe
people like
something
this?
pain. Yeah, of course.
Oh my God.
Of course. And then I wonder then, is it because the kind of upbringing that you had has drilled something inside you to say you shall not cry, like a type thing. Yeah,
no, that's true. I mean, I do know somebody that told me that he had confessed that like, even like when at the loss of a friend, the reality of this person no longer being alive didn't make him cry. Like his peers around like were sad and crying and blah blah. It wasn't until he had to physically see this person being buried for that harsh reality to hit him, and then he cried in private.
In private.
Yeah. I don't know if he cried in the funeral, but like definitely it like affected him that deeply.
That's painful.
But that's how he processed from the exterior. So he's like, I guess the kind of person to just like, oh, everything is fine, but the reality is totally different.
That's true. And it becomes tricky there because how people react to certain things like death. I mean, people react completely differently. And then...
Or cheating.
Or cheating.
I'm like, let's not get...
cheating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's not get so dark, but you know.
Yeah, true. In fact, you're having a podcast about that. So I'll leave that to you and the next guest. Fascinating topic. Stay tuned for that one. I didn't even know about it. Cheating. I'm thankful, at least I know that I've never been cheated on. Or cheated on someone. Okay. I'm one of the lucky few.
You're one of the lucky few. I've not been in that position.
It's like my biggest fear is to be cheated on.
Well, I mean, I will say I've never been actually, so many people, this might be surprising. I've never been in a like serious relationship, so I can't tell you I've been cheated on. However, in this serial dating world, I know for sure I have, because men's behavior have been so shady that you're like, you can't be always this busy working, you know? Like all the time, or make a plan and then cancel.
I see.
The day of, and then you're doing something else, and you're like, this is kind of weird, you know? Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's very horrible. Yeah. But since we were talking on the topic of serial monogamy, I want to like look, just share some of the signs. So serial monogamy, and this is going back to our source, psychcentral.com. Serial monogamy may look different from person to person. For example, some serial monogamists might have long-lasting relationships but struggle to stay single. Others might date someone for a few weeks or months at a time, frequently dating new people. Potential signs of serial monogamy can include the following: struggling to stay single, difficulties of self-esteem, boredom or loneliness when single, inability to leave a relationship without a new potential partner lined up, feeling easily bored or restless in relationships, looking for a new relationship as soon as your current one ends or just before a breakup. Relationships quickly become very serious or intense. I know when I showed you this and we talked about it, there was like a couple that resonated with you. Well,
the one that really resonated with me was the relationships that I've started. Those two, they became intense incredibly quickly. That could have been moments of infatuation. And sort of just like opening up and allowing yourself, or lust, and to dive in there. But at the same time, at least in those moments, they just felt incredibly authentic and honest and perfect, so to say. I think they were great. But in terms of those that you listed, that easily resonated with me because those are how my relationship started. And in my head, I think that's how a good relationship would start. No, doesn't have to mean serious as in like you're talking about your future marriage immediately. No. But you invest yourself. Even though
you'd be surprised.
Yeah, there might
be. You'd be so surprised. You'd be so surprised the kind of shit that I've heard.
I love you on the first date or something.
Or like literally, you're like, excuse me, we went on how many dates and you're really speaking about baby names? This is too much.
Yeah, that's another level. Yeah, of course.
True story.
Really?
Yeah. It's tragic anyway. Yeah.
Who was it? May we divulge and explore this?
If I say, you're gonna be like immediate red flag. No, or not. We've been talking about this person.
Yes,
like you're like, whoa.
He did.
Yeah. Yes. But no spark though. No spark.
No spark. So he says, huh? This is a funny man.
Yeah.
Interesting man.
Like, what psychosis did you go? Did you have? Like, listen.
It'd be funny to have him on an interview
I want him so bad on this podcast. You have no idea.
There are a couple of cameras and microphones, and I'm all right. Speak. Let's find out what's going on in there and here.
Yeah, here. Literally psychosis. Like, no.
Oh, mister.
Yeah, it was a first for me too. I was like, Jesus has entered the building, but
it's tricky. I mean, again, someone who has a lot of personal endeavors to sort of overcome, and how they deal with that,
it's a journey of their own. It's
own.
a personal journey. Like, as much as you really want to help the cause and be like, you know what, I'm contributing to men in this way and the gender talk, but
yeah,
geez, you can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped or doesn't see that they need the help or what have you, and you can only
and doesn't want to
guide
hear
them. Yeah, or doesn't want to hear it a lot of the time because they think that there's nothing wrong with them. Yeah. I don't know how we got to this, but yes, yes.
Where were we before we were? Oh yes, we're talking about relationships starting super seriously.
Yeah, super fast. That's also another term too. Have you heard like love bombing?
No, never heard of it. Love bombing.
Love bombing is an actual phenomenon. We are literally, and I'm not even exaggerating.
Love bombing.
We, as a generation, are dealing with love bombing, and it's happened to me a lot too. Wait a minute, let me look at this one up. What is love bombing? Yeah. We're Googling because I read this once to a person and they're like, what is that? I'm like, oh, you don't say. Okay, so we're going to read it from bannerhealth.com. Love bombing is a manipulation technique used most often by narcissists and even cult leaders to gain power over someone. They bomb you with affection, excessive attention, affection, and gifts to lure you in. The intention is to make their victim helpless, vulnerable, and indebted to them. Granted, this sounds very dramatic and like culty. Yeah.
Love bombing sounds too sort of a cute word to describe people like that.
Okay,
these
like
are psychopaths. What the fuck? A love bomber sounds really cute.
Really cute until it's not cute.
Until you're talking about actual psychopaths.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. According to these men out in these streets, they are all psychopaths. Okay, I'm kidding. So yeah. For example, like I guess this is what they're saying. Like this doctor is saying, here's some red flags to watch out. I want to spoil you. I've never met someone more beautiful than you. I just want to be with I want to be with you all the time. I just check in because I'm worried. We're soulmates when we're married or when we have kids, kind of talk. When I'm with you, I just can't help myself. Our love makes me do crazy things. My ex was a psycho. So what if I texted this other girl? What about the trip I just took you on? Like that kind of like tit for tat to justify bad behavior.
Wait, you were asking me a question?
No, I'm reading this.
Oh, you're reading it. Okay.
Like people saying like, so what if I texted this other girl? Or what about this trip I took you on? Those kind of questions.
What's that show that came out with the I forget the name entirely. The guy who was like sort of scamming these girls.
My god, the Tinder swindler?
The Tinder swindler. Like you described the Tinder swindler, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So he's a love bomber.
Yeah, for sure
But that makes him sound 10 times sweeter than like an actual psychopath.
No, I don't think bombs are sweet.
Okay, yeah, that's.
I don't think.
But
bombs
then
are
you think love bomber, you think like photo bomber.
Okay,
right?
let me give you an example of a love bomber.
Sweet.
I will give you. I have countless examples of love bombers, and I'll give you one. This was like when I had just moved to Germany, and I was a little au pair. So basically, do you know what that is? An au pair?
Remind me.
Okay. An au pair is somebody who goes into a family's home and takes care of their child or children.
Okay.
So it's like a nanny, but without the nanny salary. In exchange, they like offer you like housing, they feed you. You don't have to pay for any of that, and they give you like a little stipend money, which is shit.
Okay.
That's how I got to Germany during the pandemic. Fun times. I don't recommend it for everybody. But anyway, I don't regret it. So it was an experience. And anyway, so during this time period, I meet this guy who shall be nameless. Let's say Bobo the Clown number 1. And Bobo the Clown, we met on a dating app. It was a different one than the one that I'm in now. And I just remember like, because I told him, look, like at the time I had a broken foot. I couldn't really like go anywhere, and it was also the severe pandemic. It was like December 2020. So like the only way that we could be able to meet is if we go on a walk, all that stuff. So he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. He drives like 25-30 minutes because I wasn't even living in Munich at the time. I was living on the outskirts. So he drives all the way to Munich. We go on a walk all around my neighborhood. Then he proceeds to be like, hey, like, why don't we just go to this bakery nearby? Which there was a bakery nearby. He like was super nice and got the coffee and the donuts and all that stuff. Okay, cool. So we had come up with this plan that because I didn't want to really spend Christmas with this new family that I was with because I had just moved into their house. The first family didn't work out. That's for another podcast episode. That didn't work out. And so when I was living with this family, like, you know, he was like, well, if you want, you can spend Christmas together. And I was like, sure. I totally just met this guy though, but I was like, let's sign up, let's go. Just met this Tinder dude. So I spent Christmas and the New Year with him.
Really? Oh wow.
Yes,
wow.
and I stayed in that house with like 7-8 other people that I had just met because he didn't live alone. He lived in a house with other people in here in this city, and I was there for a week, a whole week. Can I tell you that I never spent a single dime on groceries? He was like, no. We went grocery shopping. I was like, oh, yeah, like, let me, pay something. He's like, no. In my culture, we don't do that. I was like, oh, word. I'm not dropping a dime on food.
Lucky you.
Dale, let's do it. So I didn't spend a single dime. And he cooked every single meal.
Sweet.
I cooked every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, the only thing that I made was coffee, which was like my doing. But everything else he made, like, and elaborate meals too. Okay, wasn't like some mediocre like sandwich. So I'm like, wow, okay, impressive, cool.
Proper chivalry right there.
Cool, yeah.
Look at you.
Right. You would think, wow, the potential. Where's the man? Not here. So, what was annoying after we had spent like New Year's Eve together and whatever. So on New Year's, I think day, I went back to my family, and obviously because my family at the time was like super like COVID freaky, I didn't see him for like I think a week or two. I don't remember right now. But anyway, in between that time that we didn't see each other, he like video called me every single day. Every single day I got a video call from this man. I was like, oh, wow. Like, we would speak for like an hour at least. I was like, okay. I mean, granted, it's a pandemic, so like, you don't really have much to do. Tell me how after that, he picks me up. I spent like maybe like 2 days at that same house. Mm-hmm. I never saw him again. Like, I never saw this man again. And the explanation to that made no sense. I have the written text messages.
Let's get that out.
You want the receipts? Oh, but the receipts are being recorded right now.
I forget it. No. Remind us.
More or less, I just remember the whole thing was super confusing. It made no sense. He gave me no proper explanation as to why he was doing what he was doing. I generally was butthurt because I'm like, what was that for? You know?
Can you give us like examples of things he said?
I don't remember. That was that was like 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm like, I was so salty about it because I'm like, because I connected with some of the girls in that house on social media. I saw like a picture and there was a girl next to him and I was like, that's a little sus. Do I know whether that was his ex-girlfriend? I don't know what her role is. I really don't know. But shortly after me, he got a girlfriend. Shortly
right
after. Oh, yeah.
After he did all that.
After he did all of that.
Okay.
Shortly after. And then the audacity, which I know this is not the podcast, but the audacity that this man 6 months later reappears in my life. And you know what he does? He asks me for money.
Oh. Wait, you just met the Tinder swindler.
No, I didn't. Well, I was not swindled. So
no, okay, yeah, you didn't actually.
He asked me for money.
But is there more to it? Like, what's the reasoning behind it that he had?
It's super funny because, like, he asked me for money twice. So, like, 2021 was not the year. Then he was like, let me do 2022. Uh-huh. I was like, again, where did you get that I was an ATM machine? And then in 2022, when he finally was, like, distraught at the fact that I rejected him completely from, like, I need 100 euros and I'll pay you back tonight. I'm like, no, did you not understand the first time? And then he was like totally like I think it deeply affected the fact that I rejected him by helping him. But I was like, did you not know or do you not remember what you did to me initially? He's like, oh, but I thought we had an understanding. Like, I don't know. I was like, we never had a conversation.
It's incredibly strange.
Like,
I mean,
what the fuck?
I have not had such an experience. I can say
I
that.
have stories for
You
days.
you do have stories for days.
It's
I
so
wasn't
bad.
I wasn't delighted with those before, and now I'm hearing more and more, and I'm sure there's
This
more
is
to
why
come.
it's a jungle out in those
That's
streets.
nuts.
I like, this is the reason why, and not that I'm like, I'm closed off to dating, but like, you know, you put yourself in a vulnerable position where you're like, okay, just be open,
Yeah.
stop it. You know, no, I'm not trying, because like this whole red flag culture situation is not like a way that I want to live my life. Because then you could, if you want to find a red flag, you will find a red
find one,
flag
for sure.
anywhere. You can make anything a red flag, okay? Like, if a man wants to follow a lot of like semi half naked women on Instagram, that's on him. He's just looking for some soft porn. It's weird. But could it be a red flag? I don't know. I really don't know. But you know what I mean? And so like, it's
But that must be so emotionally daunting, and I mean, you must feel so. You must lose your interest in stepping out again if you have
Immediately.
experiences like that.
immediately.
Like, I'm closed off to dating because I just want to like focus on other things, right? It's simple, but you're closed off because you have experiences like that. That must be incredibly overwhelming and confusing.
Immediately closed
hell
off.
is that all
Immediately.
And these are my counterparts, my male counterparts, and
And these guys are older than
we
you.
don't experience that. Well, yeah, of course.
That's the
they're
sad
older.
part too.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
Mm.
Like, you would think women are always like, just date older. I
Apparently
have
not.
tried up and down the range. I've gone as young as 23 and as old as like 32. So let's go.
Maybe you have to go further up.
No. At that point, they want kids, and I'm not ready for that
That's
either.
true. That's true.
I'm telling you. And on the older they get too, it's like this weird, like, generational, like, machismo, this weird, like, I'm a man. I'm like, no. We don't want that toxic shit, bro. You could go away. Yeah.
Maybe you could find a 37-year-old who's been to therapy for like 15 years.
15 years?
Because he discovered all
therapy
of
never
these things
worked.
before they were trendy.
So therapy never worked.
That's true. That's true.
15
No, but it worked
years.
to overcome the issues, and then therapy becomes like, you know, going to sport, going to the gym, right? You use it as a way to just elevate yourself.
A good
Right?
therapist wouldn't want you to be their patient for 15 years.
Okay, maybe therapist for like 3 years, and then spiritual guide for the next 12
Spiritual
years.
guide. You need a life coach and everything, man. Just 15 years. Shit.
Okay, yeah, now you put it that way, they sound
That's
like
a lot.
they've
That's
got
a
it
lot.
all.
That's a lot. Yeah. It's bad. It's bad. So, yeah.
Well, those
yeah.
are fun dating stories. I don't have anything.
You don't have any? Come on.
I don't have dating stories. Like, no,
stop. Don't give me that.
I mean, I don't even go on dates per se. Like my
So, but
my
you're on
relationships.
apps? Are you on any apps?
Well, yeah, I try those, but I'd be lying if I said I'd be using them to like have relationships, so to say. I don't know exactly what I'm looking for. You just do those because those are like the natural follow-ups to breaking up, right? You get out of a relationship. It's like,
And
all
then
right,
you
what
get
do
a
you do?
dating
All right,
app.
time to get a dating
But
app.
that's just like so thoughtless.
It
Like,
is incredibly thoughtless.
Where is
There's
the
no thought-
intention
there's
behind
no
that?
intention
People
behind
are
it.
not intentionally dating.
You know what? I
Why?
hate dating apps in general because
They're so meaningless.
Like-
Like you literally, at least from a woman's perspective, and
Yeah.
I would love to hear your perspective on this. But from a woman's perspective, you get shirtless dudes.
Mhm.
You get guys who love fishing.
Mhm.
You get, in the U.S. at least, and I hate to say this, you get men holding guns. Not cute.
Okay.
Or army wear, whatever that is. Not fashionable. Here you get also these guys who like are surfers, but then you're like, are you really, or were you just posing with the board?
Very fun bunch.
Yeah, or the ones that are like, I'm not trying to be an alcoholic, but I'm gonna keep it low key by holding a beer. And it's like, no, you are an
Okay.
alcoholic, but it's okay though. It's okay. Like, cause I've seen literally one. Oh my god, this one guy was like, if I could eat a meal for the rest, or if I could eat my, what was it like? If I could have like my last meal, it would be a Negroni. Dude, you're an alcoholic, but it's okay. Like, just say it, you know? So,
Well,
yeah.
die the way you are, right?
Dude, this is what I'm telling you. I mean, I could easily open up... Oh, it's being recorded. I could easily open up my profile and tell you.
Yeah, I'm sure I believe you. I mean, I haven't been on many dating app dates, but I've been on one recently.
Ooh,
In,
okay.
last month in Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, we understand that the majority of people on dating apps at least use them for very shallow and vain reasons.
Very shallow.
Like, they enjoy the pride.
Transactional.
Right, they might enjoy the pride that they get from getting a match, like that sort of ego boost. Like, we understand that. But then the girl I went on a date with, she told me, which is really interesting, she's on Bumble, right? And on Bumble, if you don't message, it expires.
Yeah.
And she was like, if I match with a guy, I will not message them unless it goes through the expiry and then they rematch. And so she was...
Yeah, so that means they literally pay for the app. And to me, like, it's desperate.
Would you have to?
Yeah, to rematch, you have to pay. I
don't know, but I thought you were allowed to, like, press it.
At least for me, again, I don't know what year that was, but now Bumble's being cheap. So for rematches, you have to pay for it.
Well, anyway, she told me that last month, and she's like, I will never message a dude unless, like, they give me that, like...
That's a little much. Like,
it is a much. It's a lot.
And
then I was like, wait, why are you on a date with me? Like, you messaged me, and she was like, oh, whatever. And I was like, obviously that's not true because you're telling me something completely opposite. Anyway, it was an incredible date. But I found that interesting.
Two? Huh? What happened to date 2?
There was no date 2.
Why? Because you moved here?
Because I kind of moved here, yeah.
Really?
Well,
was she not enough?
No, she was great. It was really fun. I mean, it was very fun. Very fun. But
Robbie wasn't emotionally ready.
I was pretty clear about that too. That's why it was a fun date.
So just friends.
Well, I mean, not even friends. Like they have fun, and then I'm leaving next week. So.
Damn. Okay, you just.
But it was fun. Like very.
You just want to put yourself out there.
Put myself out there, and I was like, I'm not going on dates in general. I'm not meeting that many new people because I have so many friends back home, and I get to spend my time back home to, like, you know, be with old friends and stuff. But I'm like, let me put myself out there and go through that. Like, I have this barrier. I'm very shy. I'm not really, like, pushing myself to do these things that I'm uncomfortable about, especially in the dating world. Like, I will not go up to a random person because I just don't do that.
Maybe it's just a Gen Z thing. I actually miss that. I was thinking about that earlier today. There was such an attractive man on the U-Bahn. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I literally told myself, I'm like, isn't it so sad that, like, if I were to come up, or if anybody were to come up to me in real life and say, oh, you're attractive, you're a fucking weirdo.
Yeah,
I know. Think about it with my dad's generation, my parents' generation. Like, it was super normal to do that.
You could be in an elevator together.
Like, you know how my parents met? My parents met. My dad sold my mom a car.
Oh, you're sweet. That's sweet.
Yeah, he was a car salesman. So I'm like, okay, that's normal, right? Back then. But now, God forbid you do that. Sexual harassment.
But that's a thing.
You know, like all these different things. Like, you're just like, the lines are blurred. Now everything is weird. Don't talk to me. Like, headphones on.
But it's exactly that. Like, funnily enough, when I was younger, when I was like 14 to 17, 18, like, I was actually very comfortable, like, putting myself out there.
Yeah.
And it was great. But then as you get older and you start to sort of understand the world around you a little bit more, and you get these nuances of how, like, social dynamics work, the idea of me approaching women just felt wrong in a way.
As you got older?
As I got older, like when I went to university.
Why?
Because my inner perception is like, approaching a girl might be perceived as me, like, coming on and being pushy or whatever. So I just wouldn't.
It's the confidence. So it's the way you approach
it.
Because absolutely. You wouldn't be like, I don't know, absolutely, like, read a room.
I just didn't want to take that risk. Like, I didn't want to take that. I was like, you know what?
But it's called reading a room. You wouldn't approach a girl, I don't know. She's like eating and her mouth is like dirty and wide open. Like, you like read a room, dude. Now she's like by herself and she's, you know, reading a book.
That's different. Like, okay, yeah, no.
You could approach her and be like,
of
hi,
course.
I saw you reading a book in the corner. You look so pretty. Or wait, what book are you reading? I don't know. Like, start a small talk.
That I don't do that because I'm shy. Not because of society, so to say. But say, like, you're at a bar or you're at a club. Like, that will...
No, but you don't find love in the club.
No, but I'm talking about just, like, dating. Dating doesn't always have to mean love. What? Dating can just be...
So define this. Define this. What is dating to you? It depends. It really depends on the intentions. I'm figuring that out. Okay.
Dating can mean different things depending on where you are in life.
Right.
Let's say in my situation right now, I'm not necessarily looking for a long-term relationship because I've been in they're not long term, but I'm young, so they're still long term. Yeah, the long term. So I wouldn't be looking for that. So if I think of dating, I'm thinking of going out, meeting new people, exploring what's out there, and also, like, letting yourself out there. And that's something that I've always been, at least the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. Like, I like comfort when it comes to dating because I don't put that much thought into it. I'm like, whatever. It's just dating, you know? I've got other things to worry about.
So you're not an intentional dater? You're just
I'm not an intentional dater. Like, I didn't go on dates when I was younger. Like, I just did my thing and I still managed to get the things out of it. So this is how we got to
where we are today?
Maybe. I mean...
we're having a revelation here? Are we having a moment here?
No. I mean, I was like, funnily enough, more active when I was younger than, like, in my college and...
But you also didn't have enough experience, so...
No, for sure not. But still. And then, so in this moment, like, I'm not intentional about dating because I don't want to date, but I'm sort of perceiving it as a way to just allow myself to open up and just like throw myself out there, like I did in that like Bumble date, because I don't go on a random date with a person I'd never met, but I'm like telling myself, all right, it doesn't mean anything, it's not serious.
Well, to you.
Well, to me, but also to the type of conversations that we had. So I was like, kind of
so you were setting the stage.
Well, she knew I was leaving in a week. So at that moment, it was literally, all right, Robbie, you can go on this date, see how it is, figure out if either of you are complete psychos or whatever. But either way, nothing's going to happen that's serious. The only thing that will be blocking me is like fear. The fear of throwing myself out there. So today, that's what dating is to me. Like if I'm about to go on a date with someone random, or like I meet someone at a bar or at a coffee shop who's reading a book and I approach them, that would be a moment of me being like, all right, can you overcome that shyness and fear of doing it? Without thinking like, oh, this could be like my wife, right?
Right.
For some people, in a couple of years' time, dating will be more intentional.
Yeah, of course.
Right, and it will be like, oh, I would like to find someone who I can settle down with because time's ticking.
Yeah, right.
So, dating is different to where we are in life.
I think that's a good point, though. It's like, it's like where you are in life and how you define that. Yeah, sure. Oh my God. You've reached such a wholesome point.
Yeah, dating can be wholesome. Unless you have those experiences that you got. That's scary. That's really
You know how
weird.
many issues
That's really weird.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Weird people, man.
It's several weird people. And then you think that you're like, okay, this is not going to be a psychopath. This is not going to be one who has trauma from his ex. This is not going to be another one where he's like, has mommy issues. Like, dude, like the countless examples I have. It's tragic. And then I think, is it me? Am I the problem? But I swear I can't be. I journal.
I journal. I can't be the problem.
I've been to therapy. You know? Like, it's...
Well, in that case, it is far less likely that it's the problem, right? That you're the problem.
Yeah.
It's a tough world out there.
It's a tough world. So, I don't know. How long have we been?
48 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well,
overboard?
No, but I don't know. Is there anything else that you want to add to this conversation? I guess advice for the men out there.
Advice for the men out there?
Yeah. You seem like an emotionally tuned person.
I'm somewhat emotionally tuned, yes. I'm definitely emotionally conscious. Like I try to very much listen to whatever emotions play through. And sometimes, at least the past 2 years specifically, I have been conscious about allowing the emotions to play more of a role than like the rational side of things. That's been an issue with me, like growing up and still to this day. And my exes have like brought that up. It's like, you're too rational. You're a rational
Yes.
thinker.
Oh my God. Yes. Why? I don't understand this. Why can't you just let the
I have theories.
Theories.
I have multiple. I guess. Okay, let's think about it. In a nutshell, I think I'm potentially more rational because I grew up with a father who was very sort of critical about the world around him. And also the countries that I grew up in, like you can just like, oh, let emotion play and life will go well, right? Like everything had to be logical, rational, thought out, scientifically. Yeah. And so I kind of grew up with that mindset. I've become very critical, but that also led to a small dose of cynicism. So I became cynical about the world around me, which is obviously like because of my upbringing and what I've been taught and what I saw. But at the same time, I let that take over, and it's like, all right, your emotions are secondary to your rationality. There's thought, science, evidence, whatever. And then there's faith, feeling, emotion, and all that. So for me, it has been a pedestal. Like let's think about this first. But then you start to realize, well, it's balance. The word balance comes everywhere. You need to allow yourself to navigate with both of those feelings in mind. And so last 2 years trying to be a little bit more, let the emotion and gut feeling sort of play a role. That's a good question. Why?
Why are you like?
Because
why?
my ex told me.
And now it's a problem?
No. Because I mean, like she was able to bring out those sort of realities about myself.
And you didn't take it as a personal.
No, I didn't take it as a personal. Well, at first I was like, well, no, you're wrong. Like, I need to be thinking about these things.
Okay, because that was the first time you heard that.
It was the first time I heard that, and I was perhaps defensive, but also I thought that's the way to go about things. Like, to me, if you're allowing emotion to take a primary role over rationality, to me that's like you're being naive, like you don't understand what's going around you, right? But at the same time, no, like they have a better understanding in certain ways, and so you realize there, I think it's a better path to comfort and happiness, internal happiness, because that also means allowing you to push away outside happenings, right? And allow yourself to be more central and within, and more attentive to like your immediate surrounding. Rationality leads to a lot of thinking about others, other things,
right?
The world
so more
around
external.
You. Exactly, more external. And I think allowing yourself to lead an emotional, feeling-esque avenue allows you to be more internal. So I'm on that path, guys. I'm trying to get
He's
there.
on the path. We'd love a man on the path.
A man on the path.
Yes. Great. Well, since we're wrapping up this conversation, it's been lovely having you here.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Yeah.
I had a great time. Hopefully, again.
Yeah. Okay. So to those that have made it this far to the podcast, if you enjoyed Robbie's take on this topic that we've kind of like navigated a little bit here and there, let me know once you reach the end of this episode. Feel free to leave your comments, DM me, all that stuff, and I will bring him back if you want him back.
I'll know what people think of me now.
Yeah.
I could be cyberbullied.
No, we're not doing that.
I'm joking.
We're not doing that.
Good.
Delete comment. Yeah. Free speech who? Yeah, and yeah, any closing thoughts? Like, where can the people find you if they want to connect with you? And this is a shameless plug moment. So
shameless plug?
Use it.
I'm not going to use it to plug myself out there because I think I speak like candidly and for a lot of people that might be able to relate. If you want to reach me, reach Barbara. She will give you my number, which I'm comfortable giving.
Oh, really?
You can take my number and my socials if you want, and you can have everything.
Hey,
and then you can reach me. I'm not gonna plug myself out there because like
his number.
You can find that out by talking.
Ladies, we have his number.
I did not mean it that way. I swear I did not mean it.
You did not mean it this way.
I meant like honestly, like if you want to know more about me, I'll tell you. I don't have to.
But they want to connect with you. You know, if there's a man out there that wants to reach out to you, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
So that's how you can reach me.
Great.
And those are my closing thoughts.
Great. Thank you, everyone who's made it to the end of this podcast episode for Work in Progress. Stay tuned for next week's episode where we will discuss another topic that I won't reveal because
I don't know it.
We don't know it either. But stay tuned and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.